John Fetterman's confusing comments on fracking, one of a host of remarks from last night's debate, which have sparked conversation about whether, based on his current condition, he should have been on the debate stage at all. But since we live in a media cycle where last week might as well have been last year, many have already forgotten the reporter who got destroyed by the left-leaning media for simply pointing out that Fetterman was having difficulties understanding. During a report on a conversation with Fetterman earlier this month, which was the first televised sit-down he had done, NBC's Dasha Burns made enormous waves with this now seemingly innocuous observation.
I'll say, Katie, that just in some of the small talk prior to the interview, before the closed captioning was up and running, it did seem that he had a hard time understanding our conversation.
That small note generated a ton of outrage from the left. Prominent podcaster Kara Swisher had previously interviewed Fetterman, took a shot at Burns on Twitter saying, quote, "Sorry to say, but I talked to John Fetterman for over an hour without stop or any aids, and this is just nonsense. Maybe this reporter is just bad at small talk." New York Magazine's Rebecca Traister, who also interviewed Fetterman, added, "Fetterman's comprehension is not at all impaired. He understands everything. It's just that he reads it, which requires extra acuity, I'd argue, and responds in real time. It's a hearing auditory processing challenge." Even the candidate's wife, Giselle Fetterman, got in on the criticism, telling The Independent, quote, "If this happened in a school, if this was a child that was ableist toward another child or a teacher, there would have been issues stated. There would have been new training done. What is being done at the media after a reporter came out so openly ableist toward a person? I think shocked and appalled, but sadly not surprised. I know there's still so much to do, but it would be great to see some accountability, to see actually real change. And I'd love to see an apology toward the disability community from her and from her network for the damage they have caused." Ableist. It seems very clear now that reporter Dasha Burns is the one who is owed the apology. All she did was present a relevant observation to viewers, and she got crushed for it. She was the one who was in the room with Fetterman that day. And now the rest of us have too, after watching his debate performance. Let me be clear. I am not saying, and therefore people should not vote for John Fetterman. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that voters deserve all the information about all candidates, about Herschel Walker too. And that's what she provided. But since it could hurt, potentially, Fetterman, many in the media, the politicized media, had to jump on her, try to undermine her as a reporter. And while I don't expect she'll get an apology, I believe she sure does deserve one. Back with us now, Dan Siegel, the prominent Democratic political advisor in Pennsylvania. So, Dan, you think I'm wrong here?
50-50.
All right.
I think it's a fair assessment that we have the right as voters to ask questions about the health of our elected officials, especially when there is a question that's sort of brought to the table. But I think the outrage doesn't come from this question of, can we comment on his health? Clearly we can. The interview is about his capacity. I think the outrage comes from the fact that we're watching an interview about somebody who's talking about the sort of very reasonable things that they need, that frankly thousands of Americans need every day to perform their jobs well. But we're distracted by a comment, an observation, and perhaps an off-the-record moment that when the candidate did not have that available to him. It's like had Dasha handed me an article and asked me to comment on it when we were just talking with each other, but she took away my glasses. Well, I'm going to have a hard time speaking about that article coherently if I can't read it without my glasses.
But I guess the difference is she was just talking about chatting with him, right? About small talk, and now you look at Fetterman in the debate, and it seems she was right. And again, this notion that a reporter should censor herself, right? You should censor yourself and not report on your observations because you're going to get accused of being ableist. And I can't pretend anymore that I don't know what it means because I actually looked it up for another segment. So I now do know what the definition of ableism is. But, that just seems nuts to me. And by the way, it also seems to me bad politics for Giselle Fetterman to be twice accusing Dasha Burns of being ableist. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.